In the previous video, I gave a brief explanation of the definitions of blended, hybrid, and high-flex learning as found in the literature. I also explained how 4 factors will ultimately determine the learning delivery model that best fits your school context: classroom size, class size, physical infrastructure resources, and human resources. Because each school will differ with respect to these 4 factors, the best learning modality for one school will probably be very unique to that school. Please look at Chapter 2 of the primer for discussion of how to use the 4 factors to choose a shifting rotation schedule appropriate to your school. In the phrase shifting rotation schedule that we coined, shifting refers to the grouping of students so that each group can fit in your classrooms according to social distance requirements. The word rotation, or the phrase rotation schedule, refers to the schedule of when each group gets to be on campus. There is one more layer of analysis that you will have to do, and that is what we will talk about in this video. So this is about answering the question, how does your shifting or batching rotation affect the taught curriculum? The thinking process for this can be boiled down into a formula, which I call the 3 content questions plus 1 more. This refers to 3 questions about the daily lessons and the unit, and then 1 more question about the content coverage for the entire quarter. So I call it the 3+1 CQ, all right? 3+1 content questions or curriculum questions. The 3 are, first, what are the on-site students taking up? The next is, what are the online or remote students taking up? The third is, will it allow all students to successfully achieve the unit objectives? So those are the 3 content or curriculum questions. The last one, which is about coverage for the entire quarter, is what content will be completed for the quarter? So let's think about an example. And in our hypothetical school, the rotation schedule in this school is Monday to Tuesday, batch A is on-site, batch B is remote. Then on Wednesday to Thursday, they shift. Wednesday to Thursday, batch B is now on-site and batch A is remote. And then on Friday, the school mandates that both batches are remote. So let's talk about a hypothetical unit. Let's say Unit 1 of math for the first quarter. Now, Unit 1 has been designed by the teacher to cover 7 meetings, 7 class days, including the completion of the performance assessment or the performance task. Now, let us answer questions 1 and 2 by using the following table, all right? Remember, questions 1 and 2 are, what are the on-site students taking up? And what are the remote or online students taking up, right? So in this scheme, the teacher delivers the daily lessons of the unit to on-site students, whoever is on-site, whether batch A or batch B. So the teacher just keeps continuing the unit, whoever is the batch in front of her, right? So on Monday to Tuesday, because batch A is on-site, then they get to experience the day 1 and 2 of Unit 1 on-site, and batch B is remote. They are learning it by themselves, all right? They have a learning packet probably, and they're working on day 1 and 2 of the unit by themselves, offline or remote. On Wednesday to Thursday, batch B is now on-site and batch A is remote. The teacher continues with day 3 and 4 of Unit 1, right? So just think of it. It's almost like entering a theater in the middle of the movie. You just have to somehow catch up with the story. If you are batch B coming on Wednesday, let's say you didn't understand what was in your learning packet very well for day 1 and 2 of the unit. You were off-site, you were alone, and now day 3, the teacher will just continue. And you're now on-site and you're a little bit lost, but the teacher just continues day 3. Right? Of course, it's possible that the learning packets or the online modules material were so clear that the batch B students understand it perfectly. It's also possible that the teacher will decide to start day 3 with a short review of days 1 and 2, and that this time is enough to address any questions or points of confusion that they may have had. All right, so on Friday, batch A and B are both remote, and the teacher will continue. Now she's taking up day 5 and day 6. Now, there are many points to consider here. On day 5, Friday, all students will be learning remotely. Are they in a position to tackle the same material, given the difference in their learning experiences on days 1 to 4? The following week, Monday and Tuesday of the following week, that is day 6 and 7 of Unit 1. As the unit is winding down and the students start their performance task, batch A will again be on site. What will they do? And what will batch B do? They will now be remote. What will the on-site students be doing? What will the remote students be doing? What kind of experiences will they be having? Now, the third question is, will this scheme allow all students to successfully achieve the unit objectives? You must have noticed that this scheme goes against many of the key practices of effective teaching that guide most teachers. I'm sure you can identify many things which are not pedagogically sound if the teacher delivers the first part of the unit to, let's say, Anna, Barbie, Jaime, and Jose, and then days 3 and 4 of the lesson to Tommy, Carla, Amy, and Alicia. You may want to pause the video here and write down some of the pedagogically, not very sound practices that are occurring in this kind of arrangement, right? Nevertheless, if this is the only arrangement that your school can avail of, then the next question will be, how can we mitigate these pedagogically unsound practices, the effects, right? How can we make sure that all students will have a similar and, to the extent possible, a good and effective learning experience, right? Now remember, it's 3 CQ plus 1 more. So there's one more question, and it is, what content will be completed for the quarter? Now, for this scheme that I have just described for this example, I think there will be enough time to cover the entire content for the quarter, because actually the teacher is not repeating anything. She's just, or he's just proceeding as if all students are in front of him every day, right? The teacher will probably be able to complete the coverage of the quarter. And so it's more the whether or not the students have an equivalent learning experience that becomes the problem here. So we have discussed the implications of your shifting rotation schedule on your curriculum. We have given you an example. Please think of how your own shifting rotation schedule affects the curriculum, and we will give you time for that reflection at the end of this video. Right. Now, we also have to think about how the shifting rotation schedule affects pedagogy. We will now use a slightly different formula called the 2 doing questions plus 1 more. And these are about the different types of activities, the pedagogy that the teacher will use in delivering instruction. All right. So the 3 questions are: first, what are the on-site students doing? The first one was about what are the on-site students taking up? This time it's about pedagogy. So what are the students doing during the lesson? The second question is, what are the remote students doing? The third is, how will these be implemented? How will they do these tasks? Please note, you do not need to do this exercise in very great detail. In other words, You don't have to complete your lesson plans or unit plans at this point. A quick look at your curriculum will allow you to answer these questions briefly and just in general. So let's say that we are still talking about our math unit. So for example, it can be about how to compute area, right? Picture the teacher and the on-site students in the classroom. Let's say that you're starting the unit with a mini investigation using manipulatives like square colored tiles. Now, what are the on-site students doing? This mini investigation in small groups can easily take place in the classroom, with the teacher providing some of the guidance that the students need, the teacher giving very clear instructions and repeating them, the instructions when necessary. She can ask the students to put their desks maybe not so close to each other because of social distancing requirements, but close enough for them to work with their own set of blocks and to discuss collaboratively how to do it. The teacher can go around to each group to check on what they are doing. So how will the remote students do this mini investigation? Can the teacher give them an equivalent activity that will still lead to the achievement of the day's learning targets? Are the insights they will gain from a breakout group, let's say, be equivalent to what they would have learned if they had been on site? Can this activity be postponed for batch B to a day when it is their turn to go on site? And if so, what will they do instead while batch A is doing the group activity with square colored tiles? So for the third question, how will they do it? You will need to think about the implementation details of what the on-site and the remote batches will be doing. For example, how will the teacher guide the students and interact with them? How will the teacher check for understanding and adjust the lesson based on the results of her exit tickets or her informal formative assessment questions, prompts, and so on? Right? So chapter 3 of the primer will go through this in more detail. Meantime, to help you reflect further on the 3CQ+1 and the 2DQ+1 formulas, just try it out on a hypothetical transition blended learning model for your school. So pretend that your school is adopting a certain kind of shifting rotation schedule, and try to answer the 3CQ+1 as well as the 2DQ+1 questions. All right? So remember, this is best done in teams and fellow teachers, maybe in your subject area, or one administrator with some teachers. All right? And so try out this valuable exercise. Please read chapter 3 of the primer in more detail. Chapter 4 will also discuss curricular and pedagogical implications, but this time for the HyFlex model. Thank you.